Satan's got a river. Actually, I used that song in the Final Curse because that's sort of how I saw these three guys, all swimming in Satan's river, never going to get across. Before I forget, let me just, there's a couple of producers are here, Mark Berman and David Hillary, would you stand? Matt Cook, who plays Diesel, are you around that? Now Matt Wilder, who wrote the script.
I want to start by asking a little bit about the origins of this, because this Eddie Bunker book floated around for a long time. Walter Hill was trying to do it in the 90s, and it's been, kind of floating around. How did it first come to you, and what attracted you to it?
Well, the genesis was kind of a back-ass with Genesis, because Nick and I had done a film several years ago, which was taken from my hands and retouched. It was a very unpleasant experience, and I said to Nick, if we live long enough, we should work together again and get this stain from our clothes, do it right, and final cut. He said, yes, we should do that. But I didn't know what it could be. And then somebody asked me to read the script, and I read that opening sequence with Mad Dog. And wow, I said, maybe this is it. Maybe Jim would like to do this one. And I sent it to Nick, and he said, yeah, I do want to do it, but I want to play Troy, not the crazy one. But anyway, that's how it all started. And then all of a sudden, now I'm making a crime film. I'm not a crime film director. I said, oh my God, I've got a crime film now with Nick Cage and Willem Dafoe. How do I do this? And so then I had to figure it out. And I wanted to make it feel like 2016, so so it's not really that faithful to Eddie Bunker.
Well, what was your initial response when you first read the script, and why did you want to do Troy as opposed to Mad Dog? Mad Dog's kind of a showier part in a way.
Well, the thing is, I just starred in a movie. In fact, when Paul called me, I was in Marrakesh. Morocco, and I was doing this picture called Army of One. I play a guy who's kind of a Don Quixote eccentric who's going after Osama bin Laden, and frankly I found it exhausting, and I just didn't want to play another whack job. So Paul sent me the script, and I said, I love it because it had this sort of unlinear narrative to it, kind of like La Jetée. It was very abstract, almost like a collage. I wanted to work with Paul because, we all know what a big fan I am. And he wrote a brilliant script with Dying the Light, and it is a shame what happened to the picture. But that was a tremendous part for me. So anything that Paul wanted me to do, I would jump at. But he consented, and which is great, because we got Willem Dafoe to play Mad Dog, and he's about as good as it gets.
Yeah, in fact, it's my fifth time with Willem. And the last time I worked with him, he did a day job for me. And he said, look, I did this as a favor, but don't ever ask me again. If you want me to work for you again, give me a real role. I said, point taken. And so then I was able to call him up and say, well, I got a real role for you. So it worked out.
Well, I feel like you and Dafoe really kind of throw down the gauntlet in that opening scene. It really tells people what kind of movie this is going to be, and whether they should be on board or leave the theater.
Try to clear the house of all the people who came to the wrong theater.
Well, the whole movie has such an interesting style, and I'm curious how you got everybody on board with that tone. What kind of conversations did you have with the actors beforehand?
Well, it wasn't written as a comedy. It evolved. I kept thinking, this shit is funny. And it kind of evolved that way, and like the whole Bogart material that was not in the book, not in the script, that was something that Nick started evolving actually while we were shooting. Maybe he could tell you the genesis of that?
Well, what that was is, you know, I realized in that world I was playing something of the straight man, but I wanted to give it a twist. I don't want to talk too much about why I'm speaking like Bogart at the end of the movie. I want that to be your own personal secret. But it occurred to me, yeah, I like to keep things a little mysterious, but it occurred to me that Troy, you know, he didn't have tattoos, and I remember Paul saying like 90% of people in prison have tattoos. I said, well, that doesn't matter. Troy's not going to have tattoos. He dresses well, and he loves Golden Age movie stars, especially Humphrey Bogart, because he aspires to be Bogart within the context of the criminal mind. That would be his hero. So if he is dead in the end, I think he is. It says Troy's dead, so you can connect the dots as to why he's channeling Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah, well,
A bit of heaven, maybe.
yeah, actually, it was kind of one of those moments, because Nick had said to me, I'm not sure how to play the end, he knows how did he get away, but I said, well, maybe he didn't get away, maybe it's like an afterlife thing. And then, you know, we come to shoot the scene, and we're reading it through the actors, and Nick's doing it all as a Bogart. I said, you sure you want to do this, Nick? And we don't have time to do it twice. And he said, you know, well, he is dead, you know, he can be Bogart. And he said, look, you've been telling me for 5 weeks now, we have to be bold. And I think this is bold. And I said, you're right. We did it.
To Paul's credit, he actually let me do it, so that's amazing. Yeah, it's almost like a walk-in from the beyond. But when I did Wild at Heart, where I worked with Lone, I had read a book by Stanislavski called An Actor Prepares. And in that book, Stanislavski said, the worst thing you can do as an actor is to imitate someone. And me being me, I had to break those rules. And I thought, I was believing in something like art synchronicity, where if you could do something in one art form, you can do it in another. And I was thinking about Warhol, and how he would do these marvelous icons, or portraits of icons like Presley, or Jagger, or Dean. And I thought, well, if he can do that in that art form, why can't a film actor do that in film acting? So that's when I came up with the concept of, well, I'm going to play Sarah Ripley as though he thinks he's Elvis Presley. And that's where that started. And I think that was the first time anything like that happened. Then I did another picture called Kick-Ass, where I was channeling, in my opinion, the only Batman, Adam West. And so I said to Paul, look, this is one of my paintbrushes that I've cultivated or developed over the years that I like to paint with. I've taken on Presley, I've taken on Adam West, but I've never taken on Bogart before. Let's try this. Let's give this a go. Let's go for this. And so he said, okay. And he shook my hand right there behind closed doors, and then off we went.
Basically, it was sort of handshake, well, we're going down together.
Or up, which is kind of like that scene anyway. Are we going up or down? You're a good man, you know.
Well, you mentioned that you only had time really to do it once. Now, 30 or 40 years ago, you probably would have made this movie in studio with much bigger resources and all that. And I'm curious if the limited time and money you have doing independent film now, what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages?
Well, that's an interesting thing. You know, when I started making a film such as this one, be 45 or 50. This was 2040. So it's half the time, but more footage, because you never stop. You just run guns. You never get to your trailer. By the time you reach the door, the PA is saying, Mr. Schrader, they're ready. And you make decisions much faster. And I'm not so sure it was better when it was slower, because a lot of that time was not spent very creatively. A lot of time just spent in your trailer, you know, doing drugs. So maybe it's better. that would make them fast and happy.
Well, I also noticed that this movie had a lot of crew members who were new, or at least they weren't new to me. You know, it's not like you used to work with guys like John Bailey and Dante Spinati and people like that. Was working with the sort of younger, newer crew, was that an economic choice or artistic choice or both?
It was both, but more artistic than economic. Obviously, I didn't want to pay them. But I was getting this theory. There was a generation that made the rules, and a generation that codified the rules, and then there was a generation, my generation, that broke the rules, and then there's Quinn's generation, which laughed at the rules. Now we have a new generation that doesn't know there were rules. And I said, that's what I need. I need these kids, who grew up thinking you made films with your phone, and whose only context is that. And I don't want people who are going to think outside the box. I want people who are outside the box and who couldn't find a box if you asked them. And so that was my thinking on bringing in people who weren't from film and didn't have film credits. And I basically just said to them that we met every week for that summer talking about crime films, watching crime films, talking about crime films, and other art forms. I said, look, the bad news is we don't have enough money to really do this right. The good news is I have Final Cut, and we can make any fucking film we want. The one we ended up making.
Well, I know we've got a theater packed with Nicolas Cage and Paul Schrader fans, so I want to open it up to the audience. I'll try to see you as well as I can with this light that's glaring in your face. Yes, yell out as loud as you can, and I'll repeat it for the people in the back.
Mr. Cage, where did you find that fabulous blue suit?
In the movie, The Blue Suit?
Yeah.
That's Paul's doing. You might have noticed that his characters in his movies are marvelously well dressed. Beginning with American Gigolo. When I saw that movie, I didn't even know what an Armani suit was, and I was blown away by Richard's wardrobe in that. He's always getting me very well dressed in his movies.
Well, yeah, and actually it's a kind of visual pun. When I was talking with my group, I said, oh my God, we've got a strip club scene. Boring. Every strip club scene looks the same. Doesn't matter how much money you have, the same backlighting, the same bar, the same cuts. How in the hell do you make a strip scene interesting? And then I said, wait a second, there really hasn't been a black and white strip club scene since Lenny. Let's just do it in black and white. Never explain why. Just do it in black and white. It won't be boring. People will be wondering, why is it in black and white? and then once I knew I was doing it in black and white, I realized I could play that visual pun, have Nick in this super slick suit, and when it goes to color, it's this, this gaudy kind of pastel.
Color.
Mr. Cage, I want to know, what's your favorite Paul Schrader directed film?
The question, in case you can hear it in the back, was for Nick. What's his favorite Paul Schrader directed film?
Well, there are so many, but if I had to choose one that I felt encapsulates the artistry and the originality and the courage the most, I would say Mishima. And also I read Schrader on Schrader, which is a great read if you want to know more about the maestro. But he was friends with Ames, and the great designer, and I thought that his thoughts about Ames are presented in Mishima. You see how he uses the subliminal suggestion in some of the stills. There's a jet fighter and an oxygen mask just inexplicably there, and it stimulates the consciousness on some level. So I would definitely choose Mishima. For performance, I would have to go with Nolte and Coburn in Affliction. That movie really came out.
And let me just put in a plug. If you want to see Mishima on the big screen tomorrow night with Paul in person, it'll be at the Arrow in Santa Monica. So if you're not going to be here, go on over there. Other questions? Yeah, right down here in front. Can I repeat it for the back of the audience? The question was why, after writing and directing Blue Collar, Hardcore, American Gigolo, his first 3 films, did Paul choose to just direct Cat People?
Well, you know, sometimes you really need your own material, and sometimes it's good to step away from it. And I was, the whole Scorsese thing was starting to run out of gas. We did 4 films together. We're really proud of all 4, the last one being with Nick. But on that one, Bringing Out the Dead, I could see that the relationship was starting to fray because I was now thinking like a director. And he didn't want me to think like a director. He wanted me to think like a writer, specifically his writer. And so I, you know, I said, we had a good run, Marty, but I don't think it's going to be another one. It wasn't. You know, sometimes it's really good. I did a script that Harold Pinter wrote. I did a script that Fred Easton Ellis wrote. And it's really good to step back, you know, to get into another writer's world.
And yet, didn't you say that when you did Cat People, you ended up finding out that it ended up being just as personal as the other ones?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I thought I was just going to be a yeoman and do a horror film for Universal, a remake, and just do it stylistically. But in the end, they always become personal.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Schrader, yeah, I have a book signed by the late and great Eddie Bunker. I would appreciate if you signed it as well. That'd be a great honor.
Yes.
Hello, Schrader. I was wondering, you put your secretary, my mum, who was your assistant for 5 years, in every film that you did with her. I was wondering why you did that. Why did you put Judy in?
The question is why Paul Schrader put his secretary, her mom, in all his movies while she was working for him. Hardcore.
American Gigolo.
Maybe I was just too lazy to be original.
Also, it's a double barrel. Sorry. Will you join us at Nirvana for dinner later?
No, of course, we have plans, but give her my best.
I can't, but she has a lesson for you.
Okay. Yes. Senator, hand up in the gray shirt.
Hi, Mr. Schrader. It's an honor getting to speak with you. Actually today I read your essay from 10 years ago on Film Comment, where you talk about the film canon. And in it, I suppose you mentioned that you think film as an art form reached its peak in the 20th century, and sort of because of the whole post-art trash era, it's sort of coming to an end. And in it, you mentioned, I have perhaps 10 years of films left in me, and I am perfectly content to ride the broken down horse called movies into the cinematic sunset. But if I were starting out at the beginning of my narrative, so to speak, I doubt I'd turn to film as defined by the 20th century for personal expression. Do you still hold that view, and how do you think film fits into our culture?
Yeah, I still think that's sort of true. All the sort of talented writers are all migrating to television. But I have a few films left in me, and that old broken down horse still has a few miles in it. So I think I will finish it out. If I were starting out, I would be, writing code.
Is there anybody up in the balcony? I want to give you guys a chance. If anyone in the balcony has any questions. Yeah.
What's the best advice you give writer-directors today that are outside the box, that don't even know that there is a box and whatnot?
Best advice you can give writers and directors today?
Well, I mean, there really are no rules, so you are not really constrained. Nick has done some, very, very bold stuff like the adaption, and it really shows, the stuff you can do today. But in the end, I think writing is part of the oral tradition, not part of the written tradition. And you have to be able to tell it. You have to be able to sit there and tell it. And that's my one bit of advice.
Thank you.
Okay. The young woman, no, right there, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hi. Mr. Cage, I overheard in the Cannes Film Festival that you were interested in directing
The question is for Nick about possibly directing.
Well, I did direct one movie. It was called Sunny, with James Franco and Gina Savari, Harry Dean Stanton. I think that my interests, if I were to direct again, are primarily family drama. I think you can do so much with just getting a group of actors together and explore the dynamics of the family drama. I love movies like East of Eden with James Dean, or Ordinary People with Donald Sutherland. I think that's where I would like to focus myself if I were to direct again.
Yes, you waving right there. Yeah.
Great, as we're going to see Taxi Driver next for Mr. Schrader, I'm curious, what was your toughest scene as a young writer writing Taxi Driver, and how did you creatively break through the problem with the scene?
Well, the Taxi Driver, he's asking about Taxi Driver, which will be shown shortly. You know, I was a film critic. I got into screenwriting for the best of all reasons, which is I was presented with a kind of life crisis. And I felt something quite terrible coming over me. I felt this character, I was becoming this character. And I realized that if I didn't write about him, I might become him. And so I wrote just as therapy. And it worked. And so it wasn't really written with, the only reason I wrote a screenplay rather than a novel is because I was a film critic and I understood screenplays. But the impulse was therapy, and it actually works. You know, not film, art. Art is actually functional. It's as functional as a hammer or pliers. You can use it to ameliorate your life.
Do you still use it the same way now that you used it then?
This next one, yes. Not this one, obviously. But the next one, you can't do it on every film. Maybe once every 5 years or so, you feel that need to reach into the well and pull up some ugly gunk inside of yourself and examine it. You do it every year, it's kind of exhausting.
Okay, we got time for one or two more. Yep, up in the back.
Mr. Schrader, this film Dog Eat Dog has such raw kinetic energy to it. Like, you guys break the 180-degree rule like crazy throughout the film, the way I noticed that. So, I would like to know, like, what influenced you to approach the film with such kinetic energy?
The question was about the kinetic energy in the film and how you do things like breaking the 180-degree rule, and what influenced that approach.
Well, first of all, like I said, I don't think there are any rules. This first occurred to me when I was watching a film by Xavier Dolan called Beautiful Creatures. And he was, at that time, a 19-year-old Quebecois wunderkind. And, you know, I was watching this film and there was a Cassavetes scene. And then there was a Bertolucci scene. And then there was a Godard scene. And I said, wow, you know, in today's film, there's so little rules that you can just do everything. You can do anything, the audience will put it together for you. So the style just varies widely in this. Shooting different scenes, different styles. You know, there's a Mr. Robot scene, there's an Orson Welles scene, and there's a Michael Bay scene, and there's a, you know, and it was just this mantra of never be boring. And you know, how do you make a crime film for this moment? And that was it.
Do you still steal from The Conformist every time you make a movie?
It's a good one. It's a good one to steal from. No, I certainly didn't steal on this one.
Yes.
I just wanted to actually say hello to Mr. Cage. A group of us here made a film called Death of Superman Lives, What Happened? And we wanted to say thank you so much. We spent many hours with you in the editing room, even though you weren't really there. And we had a great response to our film, and it's airing on Showtime. And we wanted to say we're huge fans, and thanks for being a part of it, even if you weren't there in the flesh.
Well, thank you. I mean, Thanks for getting the story straight. About the documentary they did about Superman, the Tim Burton project. They did that. But thanks for being here tonight.
Right.
Can I do one quick thing? I'm a very proud father. My son Weston's in the audience, and he wrote the song during the party scene, Black Sun Damascus. And Weston's right there. Can you say hello? Nothing feels better than acting with your son's music playing. You don't have to act, you just feel it. It's amazing.
I love you.
Good.
The question is, what two films would they like to see in theater that would inform the audience about what inspired them to make this movie?
Well, I mean, there's all over the place. I just mentioned the Xavier Dolan film. There's bits of Requiem for a Dream in here. There's bits of Belly. It's very, very indiscriminate in its qualities. Two films wouldn't do.
I mean, I was actively trying not to, with the exception of the channeling of Bogart, I was actively trying not to steal from any movie or any performance other than that brief element that we talked about.
Okay, well, we've got to get to Taxi Driver, so we've probably got time for one more. Who's got a really good one? No, okay, he's waving his hand. So.
Thanks to the young person for giving us the opportunity to be here. I have one question that's going to really bug me. If there's a sequel, will the baby be in it?
If there's a sequel, will the baby be in it?
Yeah, I kind of forgot about the baby.
I forgot about the nanny too. She's still behind a locked cage somewhere.
Right over here, yeah,
Still right there. But I mean, you know, we didn't really go back to the nanny either. That stuff with the baby was interesting. We almost didn't have a real baby in that shot. We almost had to use a toy baby. And I was like, no, it's got to be the real baby. Because you get so much humor out of that. It's such a...
Yeah, it was my assistant's baby.
That explains it.
It was the price. It's all we could afford was my assistant's baby. And the funniest line in the movie came out of rehearsals. And, you know, we were trying to block this scene because it's kind of tricky with three people moving around. And he said, "What's that thing you put in the baby's mouth?" And well, it says, "Dick."
That was a rehearsal that we did. We had like 48 hours to rehearse this. And I knew, having done Raising Arizona, that you can get a lot of humor when you have a scene with a baby. So I was trying to figure out, well, we got to really look for some humor here. And originally I was trying to because what we're doing is just so atrocious, but trying to figure out, you know, make something mundane, like where's the binky or the pacifier in this state of confusion, like 3 Men and a Baby, except not with Ted Danson. And then Willem he got the goal because he just improvised, well, I'll say a dick. And I went, yeah, you know, that's great. No, I can't do that. Can I do that? But you can do that. It's hilarious. But I have to say that I also like the fact that neither Troy or Diesel gave it much thought, like he said anything wrong either. Made it fun. Also, like, get the baby out of here, he annoys me.
Well, I think I speak for everyone here when I say this movie really warmed my heart. It was a really great movie, and I thank you guys for coming out and talking about it.